So in polity lecture, we'll be starting first with the president and vice president, that is the union executive. I've already covered the Supreme Court chapter and I've already covered the Parliament chapter. In YouTube, the previous lectures you can check in my YouTube channel. You can go to polity topic. I've already covered. So once you read Lakshmikan, you can go through. Parliament has two parts, 1 hour each, and Supreme Court has also one part. That is 1 hour or 1.5 hours each. You can go through it. Okay. So we'll be starting with union executive. That is article starting from article 53. When you go for state exams, I'll tell you, when you go for state exams, these article numbers are required. Any state exam. Okay. If you go for prelims of UPSC, these article number are not required, but it will help you in enrichment of your mains GS2 answer. Okay, you can use it. Fine. So first is article 52. There shall be a president. Now the thing is, you have to be very careful. Shall means mandatory. Today my last question you can see in my channel. It is mandatory. Shall or may. Wherever the may word comes, it is not mandatory. Okay. So shall means it is mandatory to have a president of India. So this article states, this article 52 states that there must be a president of India, because the operation of constitutional scheme or structure cannot be envisaged without a president of India being in office. We have a constitution, right? Our India is governed through a constitution. Samvidhan se hi hota hai. So the operation of that constitution cannot be done without a president being in office. That is the basic rule of our constitution, remember. So it is mandatory to have a president. To run the constitutional scheme, we need to have a president. Okay, fine. So it is mandatory. So they can just twist and give the president has the president like the constitution can run even if the president is feeling illness or died or something. No, there are provisions for that, but somebody has to be in office of the president. So the office of the president has to be there. Maybe the person will not be there, some other person may come, the vice president can come and work, but the office of the president should be in operation in order to make the constitutional scheme work. Okay, article 53, the executive power of the union first. Now see, the executive power of the union shall be vested in the president. So the power will be vested in the president and shall mandatorily be exercised by him, not by him only, either directly by him or through officers subordinate to him in accordance with the constitution. It means the overall power is vested with the president, but that power is exercised either by him or by officers subordinate to him. Now here the officers subordinate to him are nobody but the Council of Ministers. So if the question comes today only, I put a question, the executive power shall be exercised by the president only. No, only by the president directly or through the officer subordinate to him. Okay? So this is clause 1. No need to remember what is clause 1 or clause 2. Just you need to remember these are part of our constitution. It is mentioned. They'll not ask you which article says this. They'll simply put the statement out of the constitution to make you confused. Because in the Lakshmikan book, things are mentioned, but it is not mentioned in the category basis, like which comes in the constitution. Every clause also are not mentioned. It is a very edited book. Okay. Clause 2. Without prejudice on the generality of the foregoing provision, the supreme command of the defense forces, हमारा union का जो defense forces है, the supreme command of the defense forces shall be vested in the president. Okay. And again, the exercise thereof shall be regulated by law. You have to be very careful with the words. So the overall power is given with the president. Okay, fine. But the exercise, like how to do it, when to all those provisions will come from a law. Law means the parliament will make a law. So you have to be very careful in what is the statement given in exam. Over it is on the president, fine. But the exercise of the power should be regulated by a law. So there is a scope of regulation. There is a scope of regulation. Okay. Next. Nothing in this article shall be deemed to transfer to the president any functions conferred by any existing law on the government of any state or any authority. So nothing in this article shall be deemed to transfer to the president any functions. conferred by any existing law on the government of any state or any authority. Nothing in this article shall prevent the parliament from conferring by law functions on authorities other than the president. इसका मतलब nothing, it is not preventing the parliament from conferring by law functions on authorities other than the president. So parliament can also make a law, but other than the president. Here the keyword is here, other than the president. Nothing in this article will prevent the parliament from doing any law and giving any functions on authorities other than the president. So the same thing is written in a normal way. This article declares the president as the executive head of the union. All the executive powers of the union are vested in the president. And he may exercise these powers either on his own or through any subordinate officers to him. And the officers subordinate include here Council of Ministers. But the point is, in this particular article, the term Council of Ministers are not mentioned. You have to be very careful. Here it is mentioned in the Constitution, officers subordinate to them. The term Council of Ministers will come in other articles, not here. When we study other articles, PM Parliament will go to 74, 75 article, there will come to know. Fine. Okay. So old judicial, here judicial interventions are also given, but we'll only go through the new judicial, latest judicial pronouncements. In Union of India versus Sri Hariharan case 2014, no need to remember the case name, just you need to know that Supreme Court observed that the executive power vested in the president should be exercised by him either directly or through officers subordinate to him in accordance with the Constitution. It means the thing which was mentioned in the Constitution, some PIL somebody have put, the Supreme Court has also reiterated the fact that okay, it will be done by him either directly or to the officer subordinate to him. Fine. Now coming to election of president. Now the election of president, Article 54. President shall be elected by the members of an electoral college. A college hoga consisting of the elected members of both houses of parliament. So Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha ka elected members. Here nominated members are not there. Elected members of the legislative assemblies of the states. And in the states we also include Delhi and Pondicherry, because they have assemblies, they have legislative assemblies, right? Okay. The president, so the president is elected by an electoral college consisting of elected members of Lok Sabha, elected members of Rajya Sabha, elected members of legislative assemblies of all states, elected members of the legislative assemblies of Delhi and Puducherry. So it does not contain the nominated members of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. We also have nominated members, right? So it will not contain that. It will not also include the nominated members of state legislative assemblies, right? It will also not contain or include the members of legislative council. We also have some states which have legislative councils, right? So those members also will not be included. So here we can only remember that president, the election of president is elected by college, electoral college, which consists of only the elected members. So here there is no scope of nominated members. Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
सर राज्यसभा में भी तो जितने भी वो जो एमपी होते हैं वो भी तो नॉमिनेट ही होते हैं ना पार्टी के द्वारा?
नहीं, नॉमिनेटेड होते हैं, नहीं कुछ नॉमिनेटेड होते हैं, बाकी तो इलेक्टेड होते हैं ना।
उनका वोटिंग थोड़ी होता है सर।
वोटिंग राज्यसभा वोटिंग नहीं होता है, फिर कैसे होता है? राज्यसभा इलेक्शन सुने नहीं हो तुम? राज्यसभा भी इलेक्शन होता है उनका, जैसे प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन जिस तरीके से होता है उस तरीके से राज्यसभा इलेक्शन भी होता है। सिंगल ट्रांसफरेबल वोट सीक्रेट बैलेट से होता है, प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन से होता है, ठीक है?
यस सर।
तो पार्टी लीडर को नॉमिनेट करते, दैट इज नॉट कॉल्ड नॉमिनेशन, वो अलग बात, वो तो इनिशियल पार्ट है, वो भूल जाओ। ये नॉमिनेट में बोलो जो गवर्नर नॉमिनेट करता है स्टेट में, जो प्रेसिडेंट नॉमिनेट करता है सेंटर में, उसी की बात हो रही है, ठीक है?
यस सर।
ओके। So 55 article, manner of election of president. कैसे election होता है? As far as practicable, this is not required, but still then we just need to know the formula, that's it. As far as practicable, there shall be uniformity in the scale of representation of the different states at the election of the president. As far as practicable, एक uniformity mention होगा in the scale of representation of different states, ठीक है? Now here there is a constitutional language which will be difficult to understand. We can directly go to the explanation part, only this part. It will be very easy to understand. So article 55, what it says ki it has devised a way by which a value is attached, ठीक है? A value is attached to each vote of an MP. प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन में हर एमपी वोट करेगा, राइट? तो एक वैल्यू इज अटैच्ड एंड एन एमएलए ड्यूरिंग, एमएलए को भी एक वैल्यू दिया गया है, एमपी को एक वैल्यू दिया गया है, वन वैल्यू फॉर एन एमएलए, वन वैल्यू ऑफ एन वोट वैल्यू ऑफ एन एमपी, राइट? ड्यूरिंग द इलेक्शन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट. दिस इज एन अटेम्प्ट टू इंडिकेट दैट प्रेसिडेंट रिप्रेजेंट्स द यूनिटी ऑफ इंडिया. ठीक है, बिकॉज एमएलए कम्स फ्रॉम स्टेट, एमपी भी स्टेट से आते हैं, बट दे रिप्रेजेंट द पार्लियामेंट, राइट? Lok Sabha. So one value of ML is equal to total population of that state by the total number of elected members of legislative assemblies into 1 by 1000. This is what in the sentence form it is written above. ठीक है, total the vote value of an MP is equal to total value of votes of all MLA of all state. See, MP में एक kind of cumulative हो रहा है. Total value of votes of all MLAs. Here we have only one MLA. Now here the total value of votes of all MLA of all divided by total number of elected members of the parliament. That's it. So like 2 years back one question came, just you have to put the formula and check the answer. कि किसका ज़्यादा है. One question had come like 2 years back, 2 to 3 years back, don't remember exactly. Just you need to put this formula, you can get the answer. Okay, fine. वही चीज लिखा है, but here one need you need to know, because one thing also it is mentioned, if you see here the last clause. So the election of president shall be held in accordance with system of proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. I will explain you what is proportional representation. I'll send you a 4-minute video in the group. You can check very easily. It is like it is explained. Just a 4-minute YouTube video I'll send you. So by means of a single transferable vote. But here the thing that is not important. The thing is here we see the population, right? So what census? We see the population of a state, right? So the population should be on what census? So what is mentioned in the constitution first we need to check. So in constitution it is mentioned, see clearly it is mentioned, the reference in this explanation to last preceding census. Okay, the last preceding census. So it means the last census was 2000. So now you see last census 2011, right? If you see it now, but this is not the case. It is 1971. Why? Because one amendment was made by the government. You can see here. So the expression population means the population as ascertained at the last preceding census, of which the relevant figures have been published. 2011 was the last census. But in 2001, the government passed an amendment, 84 constitutional amendment, where they said that the population data right now is constituted as per the 1971 census till 2026. Then after that, the next census will be taken. But till 2026, you have to remember it is the 1971 census. While calculating the vote of an MP, sorry, of an MLA in the election of a president, the census used is 1971. But in the constitution, it is only mentioned the last preceding census. You have to be very careful in what is written in paper. Last preceding census is mentioned in the constitution. In constitution, it is not mentioned. Now the government has made an amendment and added this 1971 census in 2001. So from 2001, they have amended the constitution and added this. But initially, it was only the last preceding census. Okay? Okay. Next. Now, very important terms of office of president. Very important. Okay. Article 56. The president shall hold office for a term of 5 years from the date on which he enters his office. 5 साल का होता है. It is very known fact now. Provided that removal की बात हो रही है. Term of office also, we will also talk about removal here itself. Article 56. The president may, by writing under his hand, address to vice president. We can reason. This we all know. It is mentioned in the constitution in our Lakshmikant book. Okay, fine. But if you go to clause B, this is clause number 1, right? Now if we go to clause 2, okay, simply come to clause 2. Any resignation addressed to the vice president under clause A, means under this clause, if he is writing to the vice president, I will resign the office, then the vice president shall mandatory communicate to the speaker of Lok Sabha. It is mandatory, mentioned in Constitution. It is not PM, not cabinet, not council of minister. Now what they can confuse it, because it is the vice president, they can confuse, they'll put to the vice chairman of Rajya Sabha. It will be wrong statement. You may think because vice president is there, so he is the chairman of Rajya Sabha, so maybe he will communicate to the vice chairman of Rajya Sabha or something. They can just to trap you. So it is the speaker of the House of the People, that is Lok Sabha. Everywhere it is mentioned House of the People. Lok Sabha is not mentioned in Constitution. The term is House of the People. Got it? Okay. This is one thing. Second, the president, for the violation of the Constitution, if he is violating the Constitution also, he may be removed. The president may, for the violation of the Constitution, be removed from the office by impeachment in the manner provided in Article 60. In Article 61, when you reach Article 61, we'll see there, like, for the violation of the Constitution also, president can be removed. But when you go to Article 61, we'll see that, but what is violation of the Constitution is not defined in the Constitution itself. So these are the loopholes. So what is violation? You simply can't say कि violation of the Constitution. What is the basis? क्या करोगे तभी जाके पता चलेगा कि this is a violation. Like what exactly you do so that it will mean कि it is a violation of the Constitution. So it is not clearly mentioned. Fine. Okay. Third is the president shall, notwithstanding his expiration of his term, continue to hold office until his successor enters upon his office. This is a very normal term if you see here, because it is mentioned in Lakshmikant book, but I'll twist it. President, it is this, they'll put it is mandatory for the president to continue to hold office until the, yes, it is mandatory. Shall. It is mandatory. Okay? Okay. Same thing is mentioned here. See, same thing is mentioned. Even after he holds office for 5 years, even after expiration of his term, he would continue as a president. He would continue as a president until his successor takes over. जब तक successor नहीं आता, तब तक will continue as the president. It is mentioned in the Constitution and it is compulsory. The office of the president may terminate before the expiry of the term of 5 years by two things. One is by submitting his resignation in writing addressed to the vice president, who shall forthwith communicate, who shall, again shall here, mandatory, communicate to the speaker of Lok Sabha. Then by the process of impeachment. Impeachment word is used only for the removal of president. We use impeachment, we do not use removal of the president. In other cases we use removal word, but here we'll use it as impeachment of the president. Okay? Fine. Next. Now eligibility for re-election, Article 57. A person who holds or who has held office as president shall, subject to other provisions of this Constitution, be eligible for re-election to that office. So he is eligible for re-election. Re-election stuff is there for a president. Okay. So a person can be re-elected. For example, Dr. Rajendra Prasad is the only president to have been elected twice. And Dr. Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy is the only president to have elected unopposed. So these are questions you can get in state exams. Mostly they have been asked in different exams. This Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy is a very common question. The only president to have elected unopposed. Even this was a KBC question also. Okay. Now qualifications for election as president. Article 58. Citizen, very common. You have to be a citizen of India, 35 years, and you have to be qualified for election. Qualified. See, it's not asking here you have to be a member of, you have to be qualified for election as a member of House of the People or Lok Sabha. See the term, qualified for election. Simply you cut this and a member of House of the Lok Sabha. No, not meant. You have to go by word. What exactly is the literal meaning of the word? Because Constitution, everything will be going via the Constitution. Exactly the literal meaning of the Constitution is followed. Okay. A person shall not be eligible for election as president if he holds any office of profit under the government of India. Office of profit is defined in other article 105. We'll go to that. But I'll tell you what is office of profit first. If he holds any office of profit, he's not at all eligible for election. And if he holds office now, where he will hold office of profit? Office of profit means if he having some financial thing. If he's having some financial, what is that word? Here it is mentioned. See, office of profit means it connotes any place or position that carries or offers some remuneration, financial advantage or benefit from that office. It is office of profit. It has been adopted from British parliamentary model. So according to this concept, a person may not be eligible to hold a post if he is holding any other post in the government and getting remuneration or other pecuniary benefits. If he is holding some other post in the government and is having some financial advantage, so that is called office of profit. So if he is holding any office of profit, he is not eligible for becoming a president. Okay? Now there is a catch here. You can just see here. See, the person shall not be eligible for election as president if he holds any office of profit under the government of India or the government of any state or under any local or other authority subject to the control of any of the state government. So it means office of profit not under India, not under any state, not under any local authority also. If we go to other, when you read about other provisions, you will find only this and this. Will not find this. We'll go to there, but as of now, for president, remember, office of profit, he should not hold any office of profit under government of India, under government of any state, and also under government of any local authority. Okay, fine. Same thing is mentioned here. So here the term is he should not hold any office of profit under any government, whether it is central, whether it is state, whether it is local, under any government. Okay. However, the following person is not deemed to be holding any office of profit and hence they cannot be disqualified for election as the president. Basically, sitting president. They can't because they do not hold, they're not deemed to be holding any office of profit. Governor of any state, a minister of a union, if you go through governor article, when you study about ministers also, they can't hold office of profit. So obviously they can't be disqualified on that particular category. They can't be disqualified for holding any office of profit because they are not holding the office of profit at the first place. Otherwise they can't be a governor, they can't be a president or a vice president. Okay, fine. Same thing Supreme Court has also told. Some Pranab Mukherjee case, Purno Agitok Sangma case. The Supreme Court observed that in order to be an office of profit, the office must carry various pecuniary benefits such as providing official accommodation, anything like any benefit it has to provide. Then only it will be defined under office of profit, the Supreme Court said. Office of profit is a separate topic which will be covering once we reach that article. Okay, fine. Article 59, that is conditions of president's office. The president shall not be a member of either house of the parliament or house of the legislature of any state. Shall not be a member. When he becomes a president, he should not be a member of any legislature, state legislature or any Lok Sabha or a Rajya Sabha. And if a member of either house of the parliament or house of the legislature or any state be elected as president, he shall deem to have vacated his seat in that house on the day on which he enters the office. Suppose he is a MP or an MLA, but on the day he enters as a president, he has to vacate that office. Okay. The president shall not hold any office of profit. Obviously, conditions say the president shall be entitled without payment of rent to the use of his official residences, no need of paying rent, and shall be entitled to such emoluments, allowances, and privileges as may be determined by Parliament by law. And until provision in that behalf is so made, such emoluments, allowances, and privileges as are specified in the second schedule. Now, what's the meaning of it? See, Constitution said that these things will be determined by the Parliament by law. But Parliament, see, today we have a law, but overnight Parliament can't make a law, na? So till Parliament makes a law, it will be decided as per specified in the second schedule. Second schedule covers all these things, emoluments, allowances, privileges, right? In second schedule, it is clearly mentioned in book. Okay. So second schedule has the power. Then when a parliament makes bylaw, so it will go via the provisions of the parliament. And the emoluments and allowances of the president shall not be diminished during his term of office. During his term of office, it shall not be diminished. This statement has already come in 2015 or 16. Direct statement had come. Okay, the same thing is mentioned here. We'll go to straight to Article 60. Article 60, there is a trick, I'll tell you. Every president and every person acting as president or discharging the functions of the president shall, okay, every person who is a president shall, before entering office, not after, okay, not after, before entering upon his office, make and subscribe. किसके सामने? In the presence of the Chief Justice of India, or in his absence, if Chief Justice is absent, then the senior most judge of the Supreme Court available, तो उनके सामने in the presence of them oath लेंगे, oath और affirmation, ठीक है? And in oath पे exactly what they say, I XYZ do swear in the name of God or solemnly affirm, because if see, either these two, if you believe in God, you will say this. If you are an atheist, you say this. Okay, that I will faithfully execute the office of the president. So it means here the term is, one word is office. Okay, office of the president, or discharge the functions of the president, and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect and defend. So it means the president will defend the constitution always. You get questions, right? From here only questions are made. See, Supreme Court is the guarantor of the constitution. President defends the constitution. So will defend the constitution and the law, and I will devote myself to the service and well-being of the people of India. Okay. So the terms here are, while taking oath, the main जो important terms है वो क्या है, short में एक बार देख लेंगे. In his oath, the president swears to faithfully execute the office, to preserve, protect and defend the constitution and the law. Law also, the law is made by the parliament, right? He will also defend the law. Remember, not only the constitution. To devote himself to the service and well-being of the people of India. So here he take oaths towards three things. One is office. Number one is office. This one is execute office. Number two is the constitution and law. Third is the people of India. Three things. Okay. But this is not the case with vice president. We'll come to that. Vice president is nothing he will do about constitution and law. He will simply tell you, I will execute this for the people or something. He will say, oh, just one line. Just one line. Okay. So do not get confused. Oaths are different. Okay. Oaths are different. So now Article 61. Article 61, as discussed before also, it deals with the impeachment, procedure of impeachment of president. When a president is to be impeached for violation of the constitution, the charge shall be preferred by either house of the parliament. ठीक है, impeach अगर होगा, impeachment कहाँ पे होता है? See, two things. He will give his resignation to the vice president. Second is impeachment. This we already know. Now, how is the procedure of impeachment? Now, impeachment means he has to violate. Now you have to prove that he is violating the constitution. You simply can't come and say he is violating the constitution. You have to prove it. So there is a charge. So the charge shall be preferred by House, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. How? So there is a process. No such charge shall be preferred unless the proposal to refer such charge is contained in a resolution which has been moved after at least 14 days notice in writing. So 14 days notice you have to give in writing, signed by not less than 1/4 of the total number of members. So 14 days notice चाहिए, in writing signed by not less than 1/4 of the total number of members of the house. ठीक है, ये एक basic condition है. Then such resolution has been passed by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the total membership of the house. So majority of minimum 2/3 it has to be passed, right? Then when a charge has been so preferred by either house of the parliament, the other house shall investigate. So any house can do it. By the way, here any house can do it. Is it Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha? Any house can do it. One house does it, the second house has to investigate the charge or cause the charge to be investigated. And there, while investigation, the president shall have the right to appear. President can come and right to appear and to be represented at such investigation. So these are all from Constitution, mind it. These are all mentioned in Constitution. If they say these are coming from some rules of Lok Sabha, some rules, no, it will be a wrong statement. Rules are different. We'll come to that. If as a result of the investigation, a resolution is passed by a majority of not less than 2/3 of the total membership of the House by which the charge was investigated or caused to be investigated, declaring that the charge preferred against the president has been sustained, such resolution shall have the effect of removing the president from the office, as from the date on which the resolution is passed. If the investigation is passed, then the investigation has to be passed by a majority of not less than House. Now see here, you have to, there is a catch here. If the result here, investigation of the, here it is investigated, okay? So now investigation is done. Now that investigation has to be passed by majority of not less than 2/3 of the total membership of the House by which the charge was investigated. So that House who investigated, so this point, the House which investigated the charge, there it has to be passed. Then declaring that the charge was sustained and so resolution is passed. Clear? So this is the process. So you have to be particular in each word. Exactly what is mentioned. They can interplay with the word. Words के साथ they will play. So उसमें problem हो जाती है. Okay. So the president can be impeached for the violation of the constitution. Same thing are mentioned in a statement form. So it can be initiated by either house. It must be in the form of a proposal contained in a resolution. Resolution has to be signed by 1/4 of the member of the house. And the house which framed the charge, it means doesn't like the whole Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. It is the house which framed the charge, right? So you have to be very particular here. Resolution shall be signed by 1/4 of that particular house which is framing the charges. 14 days prior notice should be given. To whom? To the president. Okay. Now here see, 14 days prior notice should be given to the president. Now they can put here to the speaker. It will be wrong. It may look correct, but it is wrong. Notice should be given to the president because you are removing the president, not the speaker. Notice is given to that person. Resolution will be given to the speaker or to the house. Such a resolution is then passed by majority of not less than 2/3 of the total membership of the house. The charge is then investigated by the other house. So the president has the right to appear and be represented at such investigation. If the other house after investigation passes a resolution by 2/3 majority of total membership of that house declaring that the charge is proved, such resolution shall have the effect of removing the president. From that day he will be removed. Okay. Now Article 62. Time of holding election to fill vacancy in the office of president and the term of office of person elected to fill casual vacancy. Now see, two clauses are there. You have to be very particular, very easy. First is an election to fill a vacancy. Now you have to know the reasons why a vacancy is caused. Okay, why a vacancy is caused. Here the vacancy is caused by expiry of term. Term खत्म हो गया. So election होगा to fill. ठीक है. An election to fill a vacancy in the house of the president occurring by person of his death. These are the reasons: for death, for resignation, or removal, or otherwise, shall be held as soon as possible after and in no case later than 6 months from the date of occurrence of the vacancy. So from when the vacancy is occurring, you have to do it within 6 months. Okay? And the person elected to fill the vacancy shall, subject to the provisions of Article 56, be entitled to hold office for full term of 5 years from the date on which he enters. Okay. So now vice president. So again, there shall be vice president. There shall be vice president. The vice president is to be ex officio chairman. He is the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha. So Article 64 says it. Okay. and he also shall not hold any office of profit. Provided that during any period when the vice president acts as the president or discharges the function of the president under Article 65, he shall not perform the duties of the office of chairman of the Rajya Sabha and shall not be entitled to any salary or allowance payable to the chairman of the Rajya Sabha under Article 97. We'll read about Article 97. It all comes under Parliament chapter. Parliament is a long chapter. You can read it from my YouTube lecture, previous lecture. These things are covered. Article 97. So here, when the vice president is acting as a president, okay, under Article 65, he will not perform the duties of chairman. Will not perform, and he will also not be entitled to any that salary of the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, right? Okay. Ex officio means virtue of his office. So that is the term used in Constitution. Ex officio. Okay. Article 65. Vice president to act as president or to discharge his functions during casual vacancies in office or during his absence. Now these are the conditions you have to remember from exam point of view. At what point of time what happens? So here, okay, in first clause, in the event of occurrence of any vacancy in the house office, suppose there is a vacancy, president vacancy हो गया, reason क्या है? Death, resignation, removal or otherwise. ठीक है? If these four are the reasons, the vice president shall act as the president until the date on which a new president is elected. Till a new president is elected, ठीक है? A new president has to be elected within 6 months, right? From the date of vacancy, already covered, last article. Within till that, because president is needed, or I told you, constitution framework cannot work without the office of the president. That is needed. So the vice president will act. Now, when the president is unable to discharge his functions, now owing to absence, so here the reasons are absentee or illness or any other cause, then the vice president shall discharge his functions. Again, vice president will work until the date on which the president resumes his duties. Till the president resumes his duties, the vice president will work. ठीक है? Third.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
सर इसमें ऊपर तो लिखा हुआ है ना, देयर शैल बी ए वाइस प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया.
यस,
तो वाइस प्रेसिडेंट भी होना चाहिए ना?
बिल्कुल होना चाहिए, बिल्कुल होना चाहिए.
अच्छा, तो अगर सर जैसे प्रेसिडेंट कहीं गया हुआ है तो वाइस प्रेसिडेंट जब रहेगा तो फिर दूसरी जगह वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की ड्यूटी कौन करेगा?
वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की ड्यूटी कौन करेगा ये हम थर्ड पार्ट में जानेंगे. अभी
यस सर.
बोलता हूं. The vice president shall, during in respect of period while he is acting or discharging the functions of president, have all the powers and immunities of the president. So see, vice president, I'll tell you, wait, एक पैनल भी रहता है, I'll tell you. अभी एक एक करके पढ़ो, कंफ्यूज मत हो. The vice president shall, during and in respect of the period while he is so acting as or discharging the functions of president, have all the powers and immunities of the president and be entitled to such emoluments, allowances and privileges as may be determined by the parliament by law, and until provision in that behalf is so made, such emoluments, allowances and privileges are specified in the same चीज है. यहाँ पे जब वो काम कर रहा है प्रेसिडेंट तो उनको वही चीज मिलेगा, emoluments, allowances as determined by the parliament, and if it is not given by the parliament, it will be done as per the second schedule. Okay. फिर आते हैं इलेक्शन ऑफ वाइस प्रेसिडेंट. सेम चीज है इलेक्शन ऑफ वाइस प्रेसिडेंट. सेम प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन, सिंगल ट्रांसफरेबल वोट, और वही यू कांट बी ए मेंबर ऑफ ईदर हाउस ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट. सेम चीज है, टोटल सेम चीज फॉर एज इट इज फॉर प्रेसिडेंट, सेम चीज फॉर वाइस प्रेसिडेंट इन दिस पर्टिकुलर कैटेगरी. यहाँ पे भी सेम चीज है, सिटीजन 35, बट वन थिंग इज काउंसिल ऑफ स्टेट्स. सो हियर he has to be again qualified for election as a member of Rajya Sabha. यहाँ पे लोकसभा की बात नहीं हो रही है. Okay. Fourth point also same. ठीक है. Office of profit you should not hold on government of India, government of any state or any local authority. Same चीज है. Okay. So यहाँ पे confuse नहीं होना है. I'll come to your doubt. Wait. Let me complete first. Same चीज लिखा है यहाँ पे. Okay. फाइन, फिर आ जाओ टर्म ऑफ ऑफिस ऑफ द वाइस प्रेसिडेंट. द वाइस प्रेसिडेंट शैल होल्ड ऑफिस फॉर अ टर्म ऑफ 5 years. ठीक है, तो यहां पे भी वाइस प्रेसिडेंट में राइटिंग अंडर हिज हैंड एड्रेस टू द प्रेसिडेंट रिजाइन हिज ऑफिस. लेकिन यहाँ पे प्रेसिडेंट किसको और आगे तक बढ़ाने की जरूरत नहीं है. जैसे कि इन द प्रेसिडेंट केस ही हैज टू एक्नॉलेज इट और टू फॉरवर्ड इट टू द लोकसभा speaker, but here that is not the case. Only vice president will write it under his hand addressed to the president. That is one, resigning the office. Second is may be removed from his office by a resolution of the whose council of states, means Rajya Sabha, passed by a majority of all the then members of the council and agreed to by the Lok Sabha. That's it. So here in vice president removal, the things will start from Rajya Sabha. But in president removal, the things may start from Rajya Sabha, may start from Lok Sabha. Okay, but here it will start from council of states. Fine, बस agreed by a majority of the then members, जितने भी members available है, present है, if they do a majority, then it is passed and it has to be agreed to by the house of the people. But no resolution for the purpose of this clause shall be moved unless at least 14 days. Again, same चीज, 14 days notice चाहिए, that is common between president and vice president. 14 days notice has to be given to the vice president. ठीक है. Now, vice president shall, notwithstanding the expiration of his term, continue to hold office until the successor enters. Until the successor comes, vice president has to continue. Shall. So it means it is mandatory also for the vice president to hold the office till the successor comes. Okay. Okay. Now, time of holding election to fill vacancy in the office of vice president and the term of office of person elected to fill casual vacancy. Now एक एक करके बी वेरी, थोड़ा अटेंटिव होके सुनो, एक साथ ही आपका मतलब रिवाइज हो जाएगा. ओके, बिकॉज दिस थिंग्स आर वेरी माइन्यूट चाहिए, एक एक वर्ड से गलती हो जाती है. एंड यू ऑल्सो पॉलिटी इज दैट काइंड ऑफ सब्जेक्ट विच यू कैंट लीव एंड कम. यू विल अटेंड 100%, यू विल अटेंड बिकॉज थिंग्स विल कम वेरी फैमिलियर, बट डेप्थ में उनका मीनिंग अलग हो जाता है. सो यू हैव टू बी वेरी, यू हैव टू हैव दैट क्लैरिटी ऑन द कॉन्सेप्चुअल लेवल पे आपको क्लैरिटी चाहिए. ओके, ठीक है. द इलेक्शन टू फिल अ वैकेंसी कॉज्ड बाय द एक्सपिरेशन ऑफ द टर्म ऑफ ऑफिस ऑफ द वाइस प्रेसिडेंट शैल बी कंप्लीटेड बिफोर द एक्सपिरेशन ऑफ द टर्म. सो बिफोर द एक्सपिरेशन ऑफ द टर्म इलेक्शन होना चाहिए, राइट, वाइस प्रेसिडेंट के लिए. ओके, एन इलेक्शन टू फिल अ वैकेंसी इन द ऑफिस ऑफ वाइस प्रेसिडेंट अकरिंग बाय रीजन ऑफ हिज डेथ, resignation or removal or otherwise shall be held as soon as possible after the occurrence of the vacancy, and the person elected to fill the vacancy shall, subject to the provisions of article 67 above, be entitled to hold office for the term of 5 years from the date on which he enters upon the office. So जब वाइस प्रेसिडेंट का वैकेंट हो जाता है, see, if there is a vacancy in the office of vice president by his death or resignation or removal or otherwise, again a person has to come as per 67 article. ठीक है.
सर
या
सर, जैसे कि केवल और केवल राज्यसभा से ही हम वाइस प्रेसिडेंट के रिमूवल के लिए
रिजोल्यूशन शुरू करेंगे. यस,
शुरू करेंगे, और बस सिंपल मेजोरिटी राज्यसभा से होना चाहिए,
राज्यसभा से होना चाहिए और एग्रीड होना चाहिए लोकसभा का.
एग्रीड लोकसभा मतलब क्या हुआ सर?
जस्ट एग्रीड मानेंगे बस.
यस सर, अगर नहीं भी मानते तब भी
तो मानना तो पड़ेगा ना, ऑब्वियसली नहीं मानेंगे तो नहीं होगा ना, मानना तो पड़ेगा. एग्रीड. सी द थिंग इज व्हाट, अगर यू हैव टू गो बाय द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, अगर वहां पे होता कि हाँ इट विल बी पास्ड बाय ए मेजोरिटी बाय लोकसभा, देन दैट वुड हैव बीन अ डिफरेंट मीनिंग. सिंपली यू हैव टू अग्री. ऑब्वियसली एक अग्री मतलब हाउस का अग्री चाहिए ना, वन पर्सन कांट कमेंट से कि आई अग्री, राइट, ओवरऑल हाउस का चाहिए. बट जो प्रोसेस होता है ना, पास का प्रोसेस, जैसे एक पूरा का रिजोल्यूशन पास का एक पूरा प्रोसेस है, तो वो प्रोसेस नहीं होता है यहाँ पे. गॉट इट?
यस सर.
ओके, नाउ कम टू ओथ, आर्टिकल 69. तो ओथ में देखो, मैंने ओथ में बताया डिफरेंस क्या है, प्रेसिडेंट का ओथ का डिफरेंस क्या है एंड वाइस प्रेसिडेंट का ओथ का डिफरेंस क्या है. एवरी वाइस प्रेसिडेंट शैल, अगेन बिफोर एंटरिंग, ये सब एंटर करने से पहले ही ओथ लेता है. आफ्टर एंटरिंग द ऑफिस ओथ नहीं होता है, ओथ हमेशा बिफोर एंटरिंग होता है. मेक एंड सब्सक्राइब बिफोर द प्रेसिडेंट और सम पर्सन अपॉइंटेड ऑन दैट बिहाफ बाय हिम. यहाँ पे देखो, अब मुझे बताओ ओथ में डिफरेंस क्या है. यहाँ पे यू टेल मी व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस ऑफ वाइस ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट ओनली. प्रेसिडेंट में ओथ, हाँ बताओ.
प्रेसिडेंट चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया के पास भेजा
एग्जैक्टली,
और
चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया था, राइट? यहाँ पे डू यू गेट द वर्ड चीफ जस्टिस ऑफ इंडिया? नो. सो डू नॉट गेट कंफ्यूज्ड इन द पेपर, दे विल डू इट जानबूझ कर, वो वही पॉइंट डालेंगे बिकॉज यू थिंक कि प्रेसिडेंट क्या होता, तो कहीं ना कहीं सीजीआई आ ही जाता है, मतलब बाय एंड लार्ज सीजीआई कम्स, राइट, जनरली, लाइक जितना भी हम लक्ष्मीकांत से पढ़ते हैं, बट दैट इज नॉट द केस हियर. सी इट वेरी क्लियरली, इट इज नॉट मेंशन्ड. Now the thing is, see, there is another trick also. Now make and subscribe before the president or some person appointed in that behalf. Ab some person can be any person, na? Some person, but the thing is, it is not explicitly mentioned any person. Some person can be any person appointed in that behalf. So you have to be very careful in the vocabulary of the sentence, and that can be only done when you read the constitution, after you read the book. You should not read the constitution first, you should read the book first, then you come to the constitution, then आपका clarity हो जाएगा. Okay. अब इनका ओथ होगा, ठीक है? ओथ में see here, I XYZ do swear in the name of God or solemnly affirm, depending on your religious belief, and I will bear true faith, allegiance to the constitution. Now see the words here. Is there a word called defend? Now you cannot come and say कि sir defend is same thing like allegiance. No, we are going via the constitution. Constitution is the Bible, it is the Gita, it is the Quran, everything. You can't simply come and interpret the constitution. Only Supreme Court will interpret. We are not here to interpret. Only Supreme Court has the power to interpret the constitution, remember. So you have to go by the words. True faith, allegiance to the constitution of India as by law established, and I will faithfully discharge the duty upon which I am about to enter. Is there anything about his office? Office of Vice President? No. Is there anything regarding defend of Constitution? No. Is there anything related to the people of India? No. Clear? So you have to just remember true faith, allegiance to the Constitution, or I'll faithfully discharge my duty upon which I'm able to enter. So in a way you can say yes, office is there, but explicitly it is not mentioned as it is mentioned in the precedent part. So you have to be very careful in the vocabulary part. Exactly question में mention क्या है, what exactly it is demanding in the prelims question. Okay. Article 70. So you are very near to the end. Article 74 तक है, if I am not wrong, 73, 74. Okay. So 70 is also very important.
Excuse
yes.
me, sir. Can I ask something?
Yeah, ask.
Sir, about the author reformation of the vice president, in the Lakshmikant, it is mentioned in the second point for vice president to faithfully discharge the duties of his office, and in the constitution it is mentioned upon which I am about to enter. So there is a difference between the words of the two.
This is true thing, okay, because this is directly from constitution. Okay, yeah, meaning is the same. See, if you see the meaning, I faithfully discharge the duty upon which I'm about to enter. So it means he's telling I will faithfully discharge my office. I'm entering my office, right? So I'll do my duty.
Okay.
Now what exactly is mentioned in the Lakshmikant? Just repeat it again.
To faithfully discharge the duties of his office.
Yes, it is same thing, right? No, it is mentioned. No, it is mentioned in double quote, or it's simply a statement.
It's simply a statement.
That means it is this thing. Same thing. They have interpreted in the sentence format. This is the direct, like it's quote there.
This is the direct version. That is the indirect version. Otherwise,
that is the indirect version. Yeah, things are the same, but that is the indirect version. See, wherever there is a quote, it means it is directly like it is written somewhere, right? Whether if it is sentence, then it is interpreted like language. They have changed it.
And language is changed, meaning is same.
Yeah, meaning is changed. No, meaning is not changed. By the meaning is the same, but they have changed the like. No, see, in the meaning is the same. In the book, they can't simply write the quotations, right? So they will write in an explanation way. Okay.
Okay.
Fine. So Article 70. Yeah, Article 70. Discharge of President's functions in other contingencies. Matlab, any other contingency, which is like if some extra thing you get, which is not mentioned. Contingency is what? Contingency is some sudden thing. Sudden something happened. So Parliament. So you have to be very careful. Article 70 is very important. Okay. So here, Parliament may make such provision as it thinks fit for the discharge of the functions of the President in any contingency not provided in this total constitution, in this chapter. So it means if any contingency comes, suppose an contingency, coronavirus came or something pandemic came. So who has the power to give? But pandemic is not mentioned for parliament, for this president, right? Any contingency kind of thing. So there again, Parliament can prescribe. Parliament by law, obviously Parliament will make by law. So by law, it can give. It has power to give discharge if the Parliament thinks fit to the president. Got it? So this statement can be very easily made in a sentence format, and it will look very. It may look very weird. So you may think, okay, it is wrong. Why Parliament will give function to the president? Why Parliament? We haven't read anywhere. It is clearly mentioned in Article 70. Okay. Fine. See, same thing is mentioned here. This article 70 empowers the Parliament to make provision for the discharge of the function of the president in any contingency. For example, suppose contingency can be anything. Contingency can be anything, any matter you can say. For example, there may be a vacancy at the same time in the offices of the president and office of the vice president, or the absence of both by any other reason, because there is something called other reason, right? We studied now. It happened in 1969. The Chief Justice of India, or in his absence, the senior most judge of the Supreme Court of India available shall discharge the function until a new president is elected. ये भी हुआ था. तो फाइनली इफ यू सी, तो अब एक मतलब एनालिटिकल वे पे बताओ कि सबसे ज्यादा पावर किसके पास है. ऑब्वियसली पार्लियामेंट के पास पावर है. कोई भी दे कैन पुट इट, दे कैन से दिस इज अ कंटीजेंसी, वी आर गिविंग दिस, दे विल पास अ लॉ बिकॉज दे हैव मेजॉरिटी, दे विल पास अ लॉ एंड दे विल गिव दिस इज द पावर, दिस एनीथिंग दे कैन गिव. सो इन अ वे यू कैन से कि द फाइनल पावर कहीं ना कहीं पार्लियामेंट के पास है. सो दैट इज पार्लियामेंट इज ऑलवेज पावरफुल. Obviously, there are conditions. So in some cases, Supreme Court is powerful. In some cases, Parliament. I'm talking about this particular thing. Okay. Now, very important, Article 71.
एक्सक्यूज मी सर.
Yes.
सर ये जैसे कि इम्पीचमेंट ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट होता है, तो इसमें आपने बोला कि पार्लियामेंट ही सब कुछ करेगा. अगर मान लीजिए जैसे पार्लियामेंट चाह रहा है कि मैं हटा ही दूं राष्ट्रपति को, तो हटा देगा, तो राष्ट्रपति सुप्रीम कोर्ट जा सकता है क्या कि मुझे गलत हटाया है?
नहीं, वो नहीं है ना. नहीं, देयर इज अ सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर, जो कि हम आगे जब पढ़ेंगे पार्लियामेंट, इसलिए मैं बोला था पार्लियामेंट पहले पढ़ के आओ. पार्लियामेंट का मेरा यूट्यूब देखो, वहां पे देयर इज अ सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर, राइट. पार्लियामेंट के अंदर क्या होता है, वो आप बहुत कम चीजें जो कि जुडिशियल रिव्यू में उस चीज में होता है, हर चीज में जुडिशियरी एंटर नहीं कर. हाँ, अगर मैलाफाइड में हुआ देन दैट इज अ सेपरेट थिंग, बट हर चीज में सुप्रीम कोर्ट का इंटरफियर ना. बिकॉज देखो, बिकॉज देयर इज एन इन्वेस्टिगेशन, राइट. एक इन्वेस्टिगेशन होता है, फिर पास होता है, बार बार रेजोल्यूशन आता है, बार बार पास होता है, एक दो बार वहां पे पास होता है, फिर जहां पे इन्वेस्टिगेशन होता है वहां पे भी फिर पास होता है. सो लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स आर देयर. ओके, फिर आ जाओ आर्टिकल 71. यहाँ पे एक दो पॉइंट है जहां पे प्रीलिम्स ओरिएंटेड स्टेटमेंट है. ओके, मैटर्स रिलेटिंग टू कंसिडर इलेक्शन ऑफ प्रेसिडेंट. कोई भी मैटर है जो कि इट इज कनेक्टेड टू एन इलेक्शन of president or vice president. All doubts and disputes arising out of or in connection with the election of the president, be very clear. I'm talking here about election. ठीक है, here it is not mentioned removal. Election जो आर्टिकल में है कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में, that is final. You simply can't interpret here anything. All doubts and disputes arising out in connection with election shall be inquired into and decided by the Supreme Court. अगर कोई डाउट आता है, कोई डिस्प्यूट आता है रिलेटेड टू इलेक्शन, Supreme Court decision is final, right? Second, if the election of a person as president or vice president is declared void by the Supreme Court, suppose an election, maybe it was not done nicely, dispute went to Supreme Court and Supreme Court told it is void. Okay, it declared, okay, it was void. So the acts done by him in exercise and performance of the powers and duties of the office, as the case may be, on or before the date of decision of Supreme Court, shall not be invalidated. Anything he has already done, his acts, And then the Supreme Court said that the election was void, but the work or any act done by him by exercising his power will not be invalidated by reason of this declaration that the election was void. Subject to the provisions of the Constitution, again, Parliament may by law regulate any matter relating to or concerned with the election of a president. So this statement and this statement. So here, doubts and disputes. We are not talking here about regulation. Here we are talking about regulation. Here the parliament also has a power, or the constitution has empowered the parliament ki the parliament can regulate any matter. It can regulate via a law. Regulation is nothing but a law. They can bring a law related to an election of a president or a vice president. So this statement can be a question. They'll put that Parliament does not have any power to regulate an election of a president. No, it has a power. Article 71, clause 3. Okay. Now clause 4, final clause. The election of a president as like president or a vice president shall not be called in question on the ground of the existence of any vacancy for whatever reason among the members of the collateral college electing him. So इस particular जो ground of the existence of any vacancy for whatever reason among the members, the election of president cannot be called in question. So these are the statements you have to remember. Just you have to remember. They'll not twist much, because already they know these are not mentioned. Most of the sentences, they're not clearly mentioned. If you see in Lakshmikant book or any other book, basic level books, they'll only write the clause 1, clause 2 and they'll put it in a sentence. They don't go into the detailing of clauses. Okay, so the same thing is mentioned here. Nothing important here. Okay, now come to, this is a very old judicial pronouncement, not required. Now, power of president to grant pardons and to suspend, remit, commute sentence in certain cases. Very much important here. Very much, you have to be very careful. I'll tell you in a very easy way. Okay, see, the president shall have the power to grant pardon, reprieves, respite, remission. We'll tell the meaning. Meaning is mentioned in after this PDF. So he has the power to grant pardon, reprieve, respite, remissions of punishment, or to suspend, remit, or commute the sentence of any person convicted of any offense. Okay, in all cases where the punishment or sentence is given by a court martial, in all cases where the punishment or sentence is for an offense against any law relating to the executive power of the union, because see, president comes from the executive, right? Central or union executive. So the case has to come under that ambit. It cannot be under state legislature. It has to come under the state legislature. My governor will come. That will study in Article 161. Okay. And in all cases where there is a death sentence, governor has the power of everything except this. In death sentence also he can pardon. So it's a very big power of president. Okay. But again, president these are not discretionary powers. Okay. President will always do on the aid and advice of council of ministers, and for that, what is the discretionary power, what are normal powers, these you have to go to my previous YouTube videos of Parliament chapter. Very easily I have made like the explanation, very easily you can understand. Okay, but nothing in subclause 1 of clause 1 shall affect the power conferred by law on any officer of the armed forces of the union to suspend, remit, or commute a sentence passed by a court martial. Nothing in the subclause C. See, subclause C means this sentence of death, I told you, governor shall affect the power to suspend, remit, or exercised by governor of a state under any law for the time being in force. So here we'll know the explanation. Okay. So president's pardoning power. Okay.
Excuse me sir, ये 72 का point 2 का पूरा मतलब क्या हुआ?
अभी पता चल जाएगा, यहाँ से एक्सप्लेनेशन से पता चल जाएगा. थोड़ा मतलब पेशेंस रखो. ओके, यहाँ पे पता चल जाएगा तुमको सब. प्रेसिडेंट का पार्डनिंग पावर क्या है? द प्रेसिडेंट हैज द पावर टू ग्रांट पार्डन, reprieve, respite or remission of punishment or to suspend, remit or commute the sentence of the offender. ठीक है, इसका मतलब क्या? एक एक करके. पार्डन मतलब कंप्लीट एक्सोनरेशन, मतलब द पर्सन इज कंप्लीटली एब्सॉल्व्ड फ्रॉम द पनिशमेंट and also from all the penal consequences and disqualification which disentitles him for any post. सब कुछ हटा दिया, पूरा पार्डन दे दिया, completely absolved from everything. रिप्राइव मीन्स ए टेम्पररी सस्पेंशन. डेथ सेंटेंस को टेम्पररीली यू सस्पेंड इट, बंद नहीं हो रहा, यू टेम्पररीली रिप्राइव. रेस्पाइट मीन्स यू आर लाइक देर इज कोई एक पर्टिकुलर ग्राउंड है, लाइक अ प्रेगनेंसी ग्राउंड और सम लाइक अ डिसेबिलिटी ग्राउंड और समथिंग. Okay, there what you are doing is you are just awarding lesser punishment on special grounds, that is respite. We use the word respite, right? कि हम बोलते हैं थोड़ा respite मिल गया, like it was a higher punishment, now you get a lower or a lesser punishment. Commutation means you, like there is an exchange of one form of punishment for another. For example, there is some rigorous punishment like some 14 years punishment, now you are getting into a 3-year or 4-year punishment. So a rigorous, so that is a form, the form change होता है. ओके और जैसे कि बोल सकता है कि उसको मतलब बहुत ही रिगरस को बहुत ही सिंपल कर देते हैं. सिंपल, यू कैन जस्ट रिमेंबर द वर्ड. दिस आर नॉट रिक्वायर्ड फॉर एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, बट इन स्टेट एग्जाम्स दे कैन आस्क. Now remission means reduction of the amount of sentence without changing its character, like 10 years rigorous imprisonment converted to 5 years. So the example I told now, it is actually remission. We usually get confused on this, but remember remission में rigorous को 10 को 5 करते हैं, यहाँ पे हम क्या करते हैं, rigorous को simple करते हैं, simple. बिकॉज देर आर फॉर्म्स लाइक रिगरस इम्प्रिजनमेंट, जो जज बोलते हैं ना, रिगरस इम्प्रिजनमेंट हो या नॉर्मल इम्प्रिजनमेंट हो, सो उस हिसाब से ये पावर है. नाउ लिसन, तुम्हारा क्या 72 कौन सा आर्टिकल था?
72 का 2 क्लॉज 2 सर.
72 का क्लॉज 2.
क्लॉज 2.
नथिंग इन सब क्लॉज ए, दिस वन, ओके, नथिंग इन दिस सब क्लॉज ए ऑफ क्लॉज 1 shall affect the power conferred by law on any officer of the armed forces of the union to suspend, remit, commute a sentence passed by a court martial. मतलब जो यहाँ पे लॉ है, प्रेसिडेंट को पास पावर इन ऑल केसेस वेयर द पनिशमेंट और सेंटेंस इज बाय ए कोर्ट मार्शल, इतना तो पता है. लेकिन नथिंग इन दिस क्लॉज शैल अफेक्ट द पावर कन्फर्ड बाय ए लॉ ऑन एन ऑफिसर ऑफ आर्म्ड फोर्सेस ऑफ द यूनियन टू सस्पेंड, एमिट और कम्यूट ए सेंटेंस पास्ड बाय कोर्ट मार्शल. उनको अफेक्ट नहीं करेगा ऑन एनी ऑफिसर ऑफ द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस. वो सस्पेंड, एमिट और कम्यूट, उनको वो अफेक्ट नहीं करेगा. शैल अफेक्ट द पावर कन्फर्ड बाय लॉ, जो कि लॉ से दिया गया है उनको. कोई एक लॉ से भी, आर्म्ड फोर्सेस का भी तो लॉज हैं, वहां पे भी तो लॉ चलता है. ये तो एक ओवरऑल प्रेसिडेंट का पावर है, लेकिन नथिंग इन दिस शैल अफेक्ट दैट पावर कन्फर्ड बाय लॉ ऑन एनी ऑफिसर ऑफ द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस ऑफ द यूनियन to suspend, remit or commute a sentence passed by court martial.
मतलब सर कोर्ट मार्शल के द्वारा अगर लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट या डेथ है तो उसको चेंज नहीं कर सकता है.
नहीं कर, अगर वो लॉ के अंदर में हो रहा है तो कोई भी एक XYZ लॉ के अंदर में, आर्म्ड फोर्सेस का बहुत सारे लॉज है, राइट? तो वो ये पर्टिकुलर प्रोविजन उनको अफेक्ट नहीं करेगा. ओके,
यस सर.
okay, now the most important thing from exam point of view is this, कि इनका जो एडवाइस होता है, you have to be very careful here. The president's pardoning power to be exercised on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. Again, everything, most of the things we studied now, like in today's class, these are all on aid and advice. We haven't come to the discretionary part. That we have to read the parliament chapter. There we'll come to know the discretionary powers, because these all chapters are very connected. This pardoning power is to be exercised on the aid and advice of the council of ministers. But so this is a constitutional provision. But in practice, for the council of minister, it is the home ministry which takes a decision at this point. So practice में, reality में what happens, it is the home ministry. Here the president does not sit in appeal over the Supreme Court, because things will come after the Supreme Court. President will not come from the day one, right? Everything will come after this review petition and all those petitions होने के बाद ही आता है सब, ठीक है? तो that is not a court of appeal. First of all, president is not, this particular power is not a judicial power. President, so it is not a court of appeal. President does not sit in appeal over the Supreme Court. Rather, he acts as an executive authority, not as a judicial. It may look like a judicial authority, but it is not a judicial authority. Remember. Okay. Now, in 1980 Maruram case mein, this constitutional bench of the Supreme Court held that the power under Article 72 is to be exercised on the aid and advice of the central government and not by the president on its own. So this is not a discretionary position power. Pardoning power is not a discretionary power. Very clear, as simple as that. Okay. And the advice of the president and the advice of the government is again binding on the president. Okay. Now, the power under Article 72, this particular, we are talking about the pardoning powers, okay, is subject to judicial review. Okay, it's subject to judicial review. It means you can file a PIL. Now, what are the provisions? See, in Satpal case, 2000 का एक state of Haryana Satpal case में क्या होता है? The Supreme Court said that power exercised by the president under Article 72 and governor also has some power, except the death sentence pardoning. Governor also has the same power, but the thing has to come under the ambit of state. So under Article 161 respectively, subject to judicial review on the ground that the order has been passed without application of mind, it is malafide, it has been passed on extraneous or irrelevant grounds, the relevant materials have not been brought before the authority, order suffers from arbitrariness. Now see, these points are not mentioned in constitution. It has come from a judicial pronouncement. Satpal case में Supreme Court ने बोला है, it said कि these are, if it is done without application of mind, if it is malafide on irrelevant grounds, proper materials have not been brought to before the authority, orders, there may be some arbitrariness in the order, so it will be like it may come judicial review. In case of death sentence, only president has the power to pardon it. Governor cannot pardon death sentence. Pardon नहीं कर सकता, बाकी सब कर सकता है. Pardon नहीं कर सकता. They can do other things. Remember, pardon means totally बंद कर देना. They can do reprieve, remission, all those things. They have the power, governor. They cannot simply pardon the death sentence. So do not get confused. Okay. Even in case of a sentence by court martial, only president can exercise these powers. Again, even in case of sentence by court, only president can exercise these powers. Governor do not have these powers. When you read governor, you will come to know. Okay. Now
सर,
some,
सुनिए
yeah.
सर, ये 72 का 2 और ये दोनों तो फिर कॉन्ट्राडिक्ट हो गया ना?
क्या कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गया?
अभी ऊपर था कि प्रेसिडेंट कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता है कोर्ट
कुछ
मार्शल
भी नहीं
के।
कर सकता, नहीं लिखा है हमने.
हाँ,
It should not go against any law. अगर कोई लॉ, it should not affect the law. कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता, कहीं पे नहीं लिखा है. आप
nothing
अगर
else up-
क्लॉज को ध्यान से देखोगे,
Yes, sir.
प्रेसिडेंट कर सकता है, लेकिन इट शुड नॉट गो अगेंस्ट एन एस्टेब्लिश्ड लॉ. अगर कोई आर्म्ड फोर्सेस का अलग से लॉ है, इट शुड नॉट गो अगेंस्ट दैट लॉ,
Yes.
और प्रेसिडेंट करेगा भी नहीं.
नहीं सर, तो किसी लॉ से ही ना, अगर मान लीजिए कुछ सजा दे रहा है वो आर्म फोर्सेस, फिर उसको तो इसमें यहाँ पे नीचे लिखा हुआ है
क्या
कि
लिखा
कर
हुआ है?
सकता है. इवन इन केस ऑफ सेंटेंस बाय कोर्ट मार्शल ओनली प्रेसिडेंट कैन एक्सरसाइज दीज पावर्स.
हाँ, कैन एक्सरसाइज दिस पावर्स. इवन वो भी प्रेसिडेंट कैन एक्सरसाइज कर सकता है. आर्म्ड फोर्सेस में भी अगर कुछ लॉ है तो वहां पे भी वो कर सकते हैं कोर्ट मार्शल.
यस सर, कर सकते हैं, लेकिन ऊपर लिखा हुआ है कि राष्ट्रपति कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता है.
कहाँ पे
उसके
लिखा है कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता? मुझे दिखा दो. कहाँ पे लिखा है?
72 का
कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता. कहाँ पे लिखा है? कुछ
हाँ।
भी नहीं कर सकता है. कहाँ पे लिखा है? मुझे उसका इंग्लिश बता दो.
सर वही तो इंग्लिश पूरा अच्छे से नहीं समझ में आया.
बिल्कुल नहीं है. कहाँ पे लिखा है कुछ भी नहीं कर सकता है? नथिंग शैल अफेक्ट द पावर कन्फर्ड. यहाँ पे जो आर्टिकल आप 72 का पढ़ रहे हो, सब क्लॉज ए, ये नथिंग इन दिस सब क्लॉज ए विल अफेक्ट, कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते. सल नथिंग विल अफेक्ट द पावर कन्फर्ड बाय लॉ. कोई भी लॉ में अगर कोई पावर ऑन एनी ऑफिसर ऑफ द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस टू सस्पेंड, रिमिट और कम्यूट की बात हो रही है. यहाँ पे सस्पेंड, रिमिट और कम्यूट द सेंटेंस की बात हो रही है, और कुछ बात ही नहीं हो रही है. सस्पेंड, रिमिट और कम्यूट अगर कोई आर्म्ड फोर्सेस, कोई ऑफिसर ऑफ द आर्म्ड फोर्सेस जो लॉ से उसको दिया गया है, उसको ये चीज अफेक्ट नहीं करेगी. इस दोनों को अलग अलग रखो, क्योंकि यहाँ पे कोर्ट मार्शल की बात हुई है. दैट्स व्हाई कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को ऐसा लगा कि वी शुड ऑल्सो हैव समथिंग रिटन, बिकॉज देयर मे बी अ लॉ ऑन समथिंग, राइट? सो दोज शुड नॉट कम एज अ कॉन्ट्राडिक्शन. ऑब्वियसली प्रेसिडेंट कर सकता है, नहीं तो क्यों लिखा होगा? कुछ भी नहीं लिखा है यहाँ पे, लिखा इट्स नॉट अफेक्ट द पावर कन्फर्ड बाय द लॉ। यहाँ पे एक किसको पावर दिया गया है? प्रेसिडेंट को पावर दिया गया, राइट? यस और नो, जस्ट गिव मी द आंसर वन बाय वन। हियर प्रेसिडेंट हैज द पावर, यस और नो? हेलो,
यस सर।
यस, राइट? यहां तक समझ में आ गया? तो प्रेसिडेंट हैज द पावर। सपोज somebody has other power also from a law, ठीक है? सो दोनों को काइंड ऑफ सेम पावर मिल रहा है, हाँ या ना?
यस सर।
तो दिस पावर शुड नॉट अफेक्टेड दिस, बस एक बीच में एक दीवार किया गया है, राइट?
यस
उतना है। क्या पावर टू, यहां पे देखो और एक चीज है, कैच है, सस्पेंड, रिमिट एंड कम्यूट अ सेंटेंस पास्ड बाय कोर्ट मार्शल। तो उसको अलग अलग रखो, just to have a differentiation between two powers by two different people. That's why they have mentioned. Okay, fine. So this has been done. Then okay, 2014 का केस है सुप्रीम। Okay, this is on case 1918 and Supreme Court held that the grant of pardon by the president is an act of grace and therefore cannot be claimed as a matter of right. Now see, this statement can be written in a prelims format statement. They can simply put this statement, it is a matter of right कि द प्रेसिडेंट, इट इज नॉट अ मैटर ऑफ राइट, इट इज एन एक्ट ऑफ ग्रेस। हम ग्रेस दे रहे हैं, कोई तुम्हारा राइट नहीं है, बिकॉज इतना डिफिकल्ट डेथ पेनल्टी है, सो वी आर एक्टिंग एज ए ग्रेस। सो उसमें एक काइंड ऑफ ए ग्रेस फीलिंग कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन दे हैव मेंशन्ड समथिंग, दैट ऑप्शन, देयर इज अ प्रोविजन ऑफ ए ग्रेस, राइट? यू कैनॉट क्लेम इट इज माय राइट। नो, व्हिच राइट इट इज इट योर फंडामेंटल राइट? नो, ठीक है? So this statement is also very important. So no need to remember these cases, but these statements are very important. They will take from here and put it in the, just put it in the question. In Shatrughan Chauhan versus Union of India 2014, a 3 judges bench of the Supreme Court held that delay in deciding mercy petition, these are all mercy petition, right, is a sufficient ground for commutation of death sentence to life imprisonment. Now if you are delaying, see, delay in deciding mercy petition, so that becomes a sufficient ground कि डेथ सेंटेंस को लाइफ इम्प्रिजमेंट कर दो, कम्यूट कर दो. Commutation is what? You are just the number you are decreasing, right? So it is a sufficient ground. It is given by Supreme Court, not by the Constitution. Okay. Okay. Next, extent of executive power of the Union. 73, Article 73. Nothing, subject to provisions of the Constitution, the executive power of the Union shall end to the matters with respect to which Parliament has the power to make laws. Because executive power of the Union, we are asking, Union means Parliament will come. So the matter to which the Parliament has the, that is the extent, to what extent they have the power to the exercise of such rights, authority and jurisdiction as are accessible by the government of India by virtue of any treaty or any if the government has lot of treaties in international relations, we cover a lot of things. In environment schedule we cover a lot of things, UNFCCC, CBD, this treaty, that treaty. In IR we cover a lot of things. So the Indian government does it, right? So here also the extent of executive power extends to them. It extends to them also. They can do any kind of treaty we sign, and before ratifying, what would the cabinet ratifies it? Cabinet is a part of executive, right? We say, and I always say in my environment class, whenever you sign a treaty or you sign a convention, you just sign it and come. Then you get it ratified. How you get it ratified now? Through a law? No, through the just cabinet passes it. Cabinet is nothing but executive. So this is this Article 73, Clause B. So this is also mentioned in the Constitution. So they can simply change the statement. They can write India signed this treaty UNCBD, or India brought the Biological Diversity Act of 2002 with respect to the UNCBD, and this provision has been invoked through the Constitution or something like that. Yes, Article 73, Clause B mentioned. Power is there. So you have to connect things. You have to connect things. In particular to this kind of exam, like not in state exams, they'll not ask that much thing, but we never know. Nowadays state exams have also become like difficult. Okay, these clauses are not required. So this point B is very much required. Okay, because it's a part of our current affairs. Things are happening. Okay. So Article 74, the last article, Council of Ministers to aid and advise. We know there shall be a Council of Ministers with Prime Minister as the head to aid and advise the President, who shall in the exercise of his functions act in accordance with such advice. Provided that the President may require the Council of Ministers to reconsider such advice either generally or otherwise, and the President shall act in accordance with the advice tendered after such reconsideration. This is the language which is mentioned in the Constitution. It means only once. The President can ask only once, written only once. Second time if that advice comes, so it is mandatory for the President. The President shall act in accordance with the advice tendered after such reconsideration. Okay. Okay, next is, so same thing is written, the words act in accordance with such, one more clause is there. Clause number 2 is the question whether any, and if so, what advice was tendered by the ministers to the President shall not be inquired into any court. It cannot be inquired into any court. The things they are telling, or the advice they are giving, it should not be inquired into any court. Now, this Article 71 states that President shall exercise his functions as per the aid and advice. The words act in accordance with such advice used in clause 1. The act in accordance with such advice, it means that the function of Council of Ministers is not just to give advice, but to take decisions which shall be binding on the President. Only one they can ask for reconsider. Article 74 clause 2 states that the court shall inquire into any question inquire into any question on the such advice. Shall not, here shall not, it shall not be inquired. Okay, so your not word is like it is not printed. Okay, fine, these are not required. Okay, other provisions of the minister, there are very common thing. The President shall be appointed by the Prime Minister shall be appointed by the President, and other ministers shall be appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister. So now here comes the Prime Minister shall be appointed as the President. Now here, if there is no clear-cut Prime Minister, then the discretionary power comes. He can choose anyone to, and he can choose discretionary power to just to choose someone, and then ask is in the floor test you have to prove your confidence. Okay. The total number of ministers, including the Prime Minister, in the Council of Ministers shall not exceed 15% of the total members of House of the People. 15% से ज़्यादा exceed नहीं हो सकता. The total number of ministers. ठीक है? Including, not excluding, including the Prime Minister. Okay. These are common stuffs which is clearly mentioned in our book. Okay, these are not required. Just main change I'll tell you. The minister shall not hold office during the pleasure of the President. Shall hold office during the pleasure of the President. Yes. Most important thing is the Council of Ministers shall be collectively responsible to the House of the People, not to the Parliament. In Vinay GB book, you will find some questions where they have mentioned that it will be like to the Parliament. It is given correct. No, it is wrong statement. Okay, it is wrong. The Constitution clearly mentioned in clause 3. The Council of Ministers, there is a collective responsibility, right? They are collectively responsible only to the House of the People, clearly mentioned, means to the Lok Sabha. They are not collectively responsible to the, if the Parliament word comes, it is wrong. If Rajya Sabha word comes, it is wrong. Okay? Now, before a minister enters upon the office, the President shall administer to him the oaths. You must have seen that before they enter the office, they will the President shall administer to him the oaths of the office and the secrecy according to the form set out in the purpose in 3rd schedule. These are all mentioned in the 3rd schedule. The President shall administer. A minister who for any period of 6 consecutive months is not a member of either House of the Parliament shall at the expiration of the period cease to be a minister. Means suppose a minister becomes like before he is not a member, okay, but within 6 months he has to be a member of the House of the Parliament. Same in state also. Within 6 months you have to, any house, whether it's Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, you have to be a member. The salaries and allowances of the ministers shall be such as the Parliament may from time to time determine by law. Parliament until Parliament shall determine, it shall be specified in the 2nd schedule. So now Parliament has it, but before Parliament does it worked as per the 2nd schedule. Okay. Okay, in 1969, it was held that the appointment of a non-member of parliament as minister is not illegal. Yes, it is not illegal, but within 6 months. But within 6 months, you have to be within period of minimum 6 months. You have to be a minister. Okay. So finally, the Attorney General of India. So Attorney General of India is also a part of Union Executive, because we are reading the chapter of Union Executive. So Attorney General is also a part. President, Vice President, Attorney General, these are all part of Union Executive. The President shall appoint a person who is qualified to be appointed Judge of Supreme Court. Who is qualified to be a Judge of a Supreme Court, usko appoint karega. It shall be duty of the Attorney General, it's Article 76, okay, to give advice to the Government of India upon such legal matters and to perform such other duties of as a legal character from time to time be referred or assigned to him by the President, and to discharge the functions conferred by him under the Constitution or under any law. Now here see, हम सबको पता है कि अटॉर्नी जनरल इज नथिंग बट द एडवोकेट ऑफ गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया का वो लॉयर है, वो जाके लड़ता है. ओके, सो नाउ सी देयर इज अ कैच हियर. एनी फंक्शन गिवन टू हिम ही विल डू. ठीक है, असाइन टू हिम बाय द प्रेसिडेंट. ठीक है, और टू डिस्चार्ज द फंक्शंस कन्फर्ड ऑन हिम बाय द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन or by any other law. This is the main thing which will, now you're reading the constitution, you may have clarity, but just think before you read it. Any law can also give a power to Attorney General, simply. So any other law means what? Parliament. Who will make a law? Not you, not me. They'll simply create sentences from here. They'll simply, clause 2 clear cut mention. So any law can confer some functions to the AG. Yes, it can be done. There are provisions. So president can give. Constitution तो वैसा है ही है. Constitution obviously it is mentioned. Even any other law or any other law. ठीक है. In the performance of his duties, the Attorney General shall have the right of audience in all courts. This is a common statement. He has the right. In all courts he can go. He has the right. The Attorney General shall hold office during the pleasure of the President. Yes, but it is not discretionary. It works upon the aid and advice of the PM and Council of Ministers. If they want, they can remove anytime. So pleasure of the President. And shall receive such remuneration as the President may determine. So now here the remuneration is President, not Parliament, but confer functions Parliament can do. Very clear. They will clear cut put two statements which are similar looking, and they'll simply exchange it. Okay, so here they have mentioned it. So is appointed by the President, is the first law officer, duty to give advice to the government on legal matters, right of audience. He holds office during the pleasure of the President. Attorney General can take part in proceedings without having the right to vote. He can take part, but obviously he can't. He doesn't have right to vote. He's not a member, right? He's not a member of the Parliament. He's a part of the executive. That's why he can go. He can take part in parliamentary proceedings, but he do not have right to vote, or does not have right to vote. Okay, now the most important, the last two articles. Conduct of business of government order. Be very careful. Okay. All executive action of the government of India shall be expressed in the name of the President. जितना भी executive action हो रहा है, President के नाम पे होता है. ठीक है. Now it is clear cut. 77 clause 1. Orders and other instruments made and executed in the name of the President shall be authenticated in such manner as may be specified in rules to be made by the President. Again, what rules? What rules we are talking here? It will be in the next clause. So orders and other instruments made and executed in the name of the President shall be authenticated in such manner as specified in rules to be made by the President, and the validity of an order or instrument which is so authenticated shall not be called in question on the ground that it is not an order or instrument made or executed by the President. पहले तो कोई सब executive action will be taken in the name of the President. Any order or instrument made or executed in the name of the President shall be authenticated in manner. Manner कहाँ पे? देखो ये तो एक simple, this is a statement. But there are a lot of things. There is a provision. There is a method to do everything. Everything are mentioned in the rules. It should go as per the rules, which are made by the President. and any validity of an order or instrument which is so authenticated will not be called in question on the ground that it is not an order or instrument made. Okay? Now rules, the president shall make rules for the more convenient transactions of the business of the government of India and for the allocation among ministers the said business. The rules president बनाएगा, Article 77 Clause 3. Okay. So same thing, Article 77 stipulates that the executive action taken by the way of an order to instrument is to be taken in the name of the president. In case where an order is not issued strictly in accordance with this provision, it can be done by evidence eliminated to establish the fact that the order is made by the appropriate authority. Here, the term eliminate means from one place, from another place or outside source. It is often used to refer to evidence given eliminate when meaning cannot be derived from a document और इंस्ट्रूमेंट इटसेल्फ, तो कहीं ना कहीं आउटसाइड सोर्स से लेके वो एस्टेब्लिश कर लेते हैं, दे एस्टेब्लिश द फैक्ट कि ओके फ्रॉम दिस सोर्सेस इट इज डन फ्रॉम द एप्रोप्रिएट अथॉरिटी. नाउ आर्टिकल 78, द लास्ट आर्टिकल, आर्टिकल 78 वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. यहाँ पे वन पॉइंट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम एग्जाम पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू. इट शैल बी ड्यूटी ऑफ द प्राइम मिनिस्टर, 3 थिंग्स, द प्राइम मिनिस्टर विल डू 3 थिंग्स, जस्ट रिमेंबर 3 थिंग्स. ठीक है. टू कम्युनिकेट, ठीक है, कम्युनिकेट करेंगे. द प्राइम मिनिस्टर मैंडेटरी कम्युनिकेट टू द प्रेसिडेंट ऑल डिसीजंस ऑफ द COM रिलेटिंग टू एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन अफेयर्स ऑफ द अगेन यूनियन नॉट स्टेट एंड एनी प्रपोजल्स फॉर लेजिस्लेशन. कोई भी लॉ अगर प्रपोजल कर रहा है, इट इज द ड्यूटी मैंडेटरी, ही हैज टू कम्युनिकेट. To furnish such information relating to the administration of the affairs of the union and proposals for legislation, to furnish such information which is related. पहले तो communicate करेंगे, only communicate. Communicate is what is the meaning of communication? You are just saying, communicating the thing. Now you are furnishing, communicating, and now you are furnishing that information which you communicated. Okay. Here, as the president may call for. So you communicated, it is your mandatory thing, you have to communicate, just you have to go and communicate. Now if the president is calling for any paper or any documents, then you have to furnish it. Now here, as the president may call, here there is no such, it is mandatory, you have to do. Here, as the president may call for. Okay. So communication में only communication. Here president does not have to tell you कि you please communicate. It is your duty to communicate. Now if the president asks for some documents of any law and proposals of any document, then you have to furnish such information. ठीक है. Third is very important. If the president so requires, word by word, just go word by word. If the president so requires, for the consideration of the council of ministers, any matter on which a decision has been taken by a minister but which has not been considered on the council. Now again, if the president, now here there is a if the president wants, what he wants to submit for the consideration of the council of ministers, any matter, it can be any matter on which a decision has been taken by any particular minister but it has yet not been considered by the council of ministers, then again the PM has to submit. Any decision taken by a minister but it is still under consideration by the council of minister, any matter, if the president wants, PM mandatory has to provide it. Got it? These are the 3 mandatory things you have to remember. They can change the statement. I have already framed questions on it, you can check in my Telegram channel. This is the thing, 3 things the prime minister has to do. Okay, so we are done with the union executive. Now what you can do is you can go to my previous YouTube videos of polity and you can go through parliament and Supreme Court. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay, thank you.